Mary stood at the edge of her small homestead, the wind whispering through the tall grass. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the land she had once shared with her husband. Life on the frontier was not easy, and the weight of her loss felt heavier with each passing day. It seemed the vibrant colors of her past had faded, leaving only shades of gray in their wake. Her husband had been her partner through thick and thin, helping her build their dreams from scratch. But now, alone in this vast wilderness, Mary often felt like a ghost haunting the memories of what once was. She spent her days tending to the farm, planting seeds and mending fences, trying to fill the silence that echoed around her. Everywhere she looked, reminders of her husband lingered, the swing he built for her, the garden they nurtured together, and the laughter that used to fill their home. Yet beneath her sorrow lay a flicker of resilience. She was determined to survive and carve out a life for herself. As dusk approached, Mary knew she needed to gather firewood before darkness enveloped the land. With a deep breath, she wrapped herself in her shawl and set out into the growing fog, unaware that this mundane task would lead to an unexpected encounter that could change everything. As Mary stepped into the thickening fog, the world around her transformed into a soft, muted canvas. The tall grass swayed like ghostly figures in the mist, and the familiar path to the woods disappeared into a milky haze. Each step felt both exciting and unsettling, as if she was crossing into a different realm where anything could happen. The air was damp and cool, wrapping around her like a heavy blanket. Sounds were muffled, amplifying her heartbeat as she moved deeper into the wilderness. The slight rustle of leaves seemed amplified, making her jump at every crackle underfoot. Mary could feel an unease creeping in, but there was something oddly enchanting about the fog, how it draped everything in a shroud of mystery. With each passing moment, she became more engulfed by the swirling mist, her heart pounding with both apprehension and curiosity. She paused for a second, letting her senses guide her. The earthy scent of moist soil filled her lungs as she continued onward, gathering courage with each breath. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the gray shadows ahead. Her breath caught in her throat. Who could it be? Mary squinted into the fog, feeling a mix of fear and intrigue wash over her. This place that had once felt so lonely now buzzed with uncertainty. Something unexpected was about to unfold. As the figure stepped closer, Mary's heart raced with uncertainty. The man emerged from the fog, his features slowly becoming clearer. He was tall, with tousled dark hair and a rugged look that spoke of a life lived in the great outdoors. But it was the sadness in his deep-set eyes that captured her attention most, a shadow of something lost, echoing her own grief. "Hello there," he said gently, his voice smooth yet tinged with an underlying sorrow. Mary hesitated, unsure of how to respond. The wilderness had taught her to be cautious, but there was something about him that felt disarmingly kind. "I'm Jacob," he introduced himself, taking a step forward as if to bridge the gap between them. There was an air of warmth about him that eased her initial fear. Despite the fog encircling them like a ghostly embrace, she felt an unexpected sense of safety in his presence. Mary studied him for a moment, surprised at how easily she wanted to trust this stranger. "I'm Mary," she finally managed to reply. A quiet conversation began, each word exchanged pulling them into a shared world of solitude and longing. As they spoke under the cloak of mist, Mary realized they were two souls connected by their loneliness, both searching for something in this vast, untamed land. As their introductions unfolded, a palpable tension lingered in the damp air. Mary sensed Jacob's wariness as he stood before her, the weight of unspoken stories hanging between them like the fog that cloaked the landscape. She was acutely aware of her own vulnerability, her heart felt exposed, grappling with the scars of her past. "What brings you out here in such weather?" Jacob asked, his voice soft but edged with curiosity. Mary hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "I needed firewood," she replied, trying to keep her tone steady. "It's getting cold at night." Jacob nodded, but there was an understanding in his eyes that spoke volumes. "I know what you mean," he murmured, glancing away for a moment, as if lost in his thoughts. The shared silence felt heavy with their individual struggles, both harboring wounds that time had not yet healed. Mary could see a flicker of sadness behind Jacob's rugged exterior. His tough life on the frontier mirrored her own battle against loneliness and despair. She wanted to reach out and ask about his story but held herself back, afraid to venture too deeply too soon. Yet in that moment, they were together, their yearning for connection palpable amid the swirling mist. Both were trapped in worlds defined by loss but seeking something more in this unpredictable wilderness so full of mystery. As their conversation deepened, Mary felt a growing sense of camaraderie with Jacob. She decided to share her story, her voice barely above a whisper as she recounted the loss of her husband. "He was my partner in everything," she said, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "We dreamed together of building a life here, but it all slipped away too soon." Jacob listened intently, his expression softening with empathy. As Mary spoke, he was reminded of his own hardships. "I lost my family not long ago," he confessed, his tone heavy with sorrow. "A storm took them away while we were trying to make our way through the mountains." His gaze drifted past Mary into the fog, as if searching for what once was. The pause that followed was filled with unspoken grief, binding them closer together. They were both survivors in their own right, scarred by loss but resilient nonetheless. "This life can be harsh," Jacob continued, breaking the silence while looking back at Mary. "But it's also beautiful if you know where to look." Mary felt a flicker of understanding ignite between them. In that moment, they weren't just two strangers lost in the wilderness, they were fellow travelers on a difficult journey, navigating the complexities of love and loss amidst the vast and untamed land surrounding them. Feeling a sense of newfound trust, Mary watched as Jacob moved to help her gather firewood. He bent down and effortlessly lifted a heavy log, making it look easy as he tossed it onto a growing pile. "You can't be out here alone all the time," he remarked with a gentle smile. "It's wise to have a partner, especially in these woods." As they worked side by side, Mary felt the tension of their earlier introductions dissolve. Each shared glance and laugh brought them closer, igniting a spark of hope in her heart. Once they had collected enough wood, Jacob suggested, "How about I show you a special spot I found? There's fresh water and wild berries nearby, it'll be a nice break from all this." Intrigued, Mary nodded. She was still cautious but could sense that Jacob meant no harm. Together, they made their way through the fog, their path illuminated by the dimming light of the day. The air around them was filled with the earthy scent of wet soil and moss. After a short walk, they emerged into a small clearing where a clear stream flowed gently, surrounded by bushes bursting with ripe berries. Jacob gestured to the scene with pride, his expression brightening as he watched Mary take in the beauty. In that moment, the weight of their pasts felt a little lighter, replaced by the promise of friendship and shared discoveries ahead. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Mary and Jacob settled by a crackling fire, its warmth pushing back the chill of the evening air. The forest around them seemed to hush as they turned their attention to each other, eager to share more stories. Mary felt a sense of comfort as she watched the flames dance, they flickered like her own joy that had been dormant for so long. "You know," she began, her voice steady but soft, "I used to love sitting by the fire with my husband, telling tales from our childhoods." Jacob's eyes sparkled with interest as he leaned closer. "I remember my sister and I would camp out in our backyard," he shared with a chuckle. "We'd pretend we were explorers on a grand adventure. Of course, we ended up being chased inside by the dark." Laughter bubbled between them, lightening their hearts as they reminisced about simpler times. For the first time in months, Mary felt understood. Jacob's laughter mingled with hers, creating a bond that felt as natural as breathing. They spoke about dreams, hopes for the future, and the little joys in life that had brought them happiness amid hardship. The night wrapped around them like a protective cloak, sealing their friendship in warmth and companionship, both sensing that something special was beginning to blossom between them. As they continued to talk beside the fire, a gentle breeze began to stir the air, causing the mist that hung around them to shift and swirl. Mary noticed how the fog was gradually lifting, revealing glimpses of the lush green forest and vibrant wildflowers surrounding their little clearing. The beauty of nature appeared like a hidden treasure, awakening something hopeful within her. Jacob's gaze followed hers, and they both marveled at the transformation. "Look at that," he whispered, a smile breaking across his face as sunlight began to filter through the trees. The warm rays danced upon their faces, illuminating the dirt paths beneath their feet and washing over everything with promise. Mary felt a flutter in her heart as she watched this change unfold. There was a symbolic significance in the lifting fog. It mirrored her own journey from grief into the possibility of new beginnings. She turned to Jacob, excitement brightening her eyes. "It's beautiful," she said softly, feeling a sense of warmth and optimism blossoming between them. "Just like life," Jacob replied thoughtfully, his voice filled with understanding. "Sometimes it feels heavy, but if you hold on long enough, hope can break through." In that moment, amid the splendor of nature unfolding around them, both Mary and Jacob realized they were not only witnessing a return to clarity but also embracing the potential for brighter days ahead together. Just as their spirits began to lift, dark clouds rolled in from the horizon, casting a shadow over the clearing. Mary and Jacob exchanged worried glances, sensing the impending storm. The wind picked up, rustling through the trees and carrying the first raindrops that began to splatter against the leaves. "Quick! We need to find shelter," Jacob urged, his eyes scanning the surroundings. Together, they sprang into action, racing against time. The heavy scent of rain filled the air, and Mary felt a rush of adrenaline as they moved through the forest. Jacob led the way, his familiarity with the terrain guiding them toward a large overhang that seemed to promise safety from the downpour. As they reached it, they ducked under the natural shelter just as the storm unleashed its fury. The sound of rain drumming on rock was deafening, but within their refuge, they felt a sense of relief wash over them. Working together to gather sticks and leaves, they created a small barrier against the wind-driven rain. In those moments of collaboration, laughter bubbled up between them despite the chaos outside. They exchanged playful banter about how it would be a story to tell one day. As they huddled together for warmth beneath their makeshift shelter, Mary realized how much deeper their bond had grown through this shared challenge. Facing nature's wrath side by side had forged a connection that felt unbreakable, reminding her that even in storms, companionship could make all the difference. Once the storm passed, the air was fresh and crisp, filled with the scent of rain-soaked earth. Mary and Jacob emerged from their shelter, glancing at the transformed landscape as sunlight broke through the clouds, illuminating the world around them. Their surroundings felt anew, vibrant with life and possibility, reflecting a sense of renewal in their own hearts. "Let's head back to your homestead," Jacob suggested, his voice bright with optimism. As they walked, they chatted about the beauty of nature and how storms could reveal hidden wonders. The journey was easy, and the path felt lighter underfoot. When they arrived at Mary's homestead, she invited Jacob inside for a warm drink. The cozy interior welcomed them, filled with the comforting aroma of wood smoke and earth. As they settled in, Jacob began to share more about his past, the family he had lost and the dreams that had brought him to this wild place. "I used to dream of having a farm," he confessed, gazing out the window as memories washed over him. "A place where I could grow crops and raise animals. I still want that dream, though sometimes it feels distant." Mary listened intently, his words resonating with her own aspirations for the future. "Maybe we can help each other," she suggested, her heart swelling with hope. In sharing their dreams, they found common ground, an unspoken promise to face whatever lay ahead together, forging a path toward brighter tomorrows. As days turned into weeks, the bond between Mary and Jacob deepened, blossoming like the wildflowers that now adorned the landscape. They found joy in everyday activities that filled their homestead with warmth and laughter. Each morning, they would rise early, ready to tackle the day's tasks together, whether it was tending to the small garden they had begun or fixing up parts of the cabin. Cooking meals became a delightful ritual. Mary taught Jacob her late husband's favorite recipes, and in turn, he introduced her to new flavors he had learned to prepare during his travels. The kitchen echoed with their laughter as they playfully argued over who was the better cook, both enjoying the simple pleasure of sharing meals made with care. Exploring the land was another adventure they eagerly embraced. They wandered through the forest hand in hand, discovering hidden streams and secret glades. Jacob showed Mary how to identify edible plants and berries, while she marveled at his knowledge of local wildlife. Each excursion brought them closer as they shared thoughts about life, dreams for the future, and stories from their pasts, conversations that felt easy and natural. With each passing day, Mary felt more alive than she had in years. Her heart began to heal under Jacob's gentle influence, revealing a world rich with hope and possibility. Together, they were not just surviving, they were thriving in this wilderness they now called home. One evening, as Mary and Jacob sat on the porch watching the sun set behind the mountains, a sudden wave of emotion washed over her. She found herself captivated by the warmth of Jacob's laughter and the kindness in his eyes. It startled her to realize that, amid the memories of her late husband, she was falling for this man who had brought light back into her life. Yet, with those feelings came guilt, swirling in her heart like a summer storm. How could she allow herself to love again? The thought of betraying the fond memories of her first love weighed heavily on her mind. She looked away, focusing on the darkening sky as questions loomed large, filling her with turmoil. Feeling an unexplainable pull toward Jacob, she also felt the shadows of grief creeping back in, reminding her of the love she had lost. Memories flooded back, a moment spent with her late husband laughing over simple meals and exploring their own little corner of the wilderness. It seemed wrong to entertain new feelings while honoring that past love. "Are you okay?" Jacob asked gently, noticing the change in her demeanor. Mary forced a smile but felt a knot tightening in her stomach. "I'm just thinking," she replied evasively, hiding her struggle beneath a facade of normalcy. Inside, she grappled with an internal conflict that seemed both exhilarating and terrifying, the prospect of moving forward while still cherishing what had been. As Mary and Jacob continued to grow closer, rumors began to swirl among the neighboring families. Whispers of their friendship reached Mary's ears, spoken in hushed tones over shared meals and family gatherings. The gossip was laden with judgment, implying that Mary was moving on too quickly, as if she were betraying her late husband's memory in her closeness with Jacob. One afternoon, while working in her garden, a neighbor ambushed her with questions. "Have you heard what people are saying?" the woman asked, concern etched on her face. "It's not right for a widow to carry on with another man so soon." Mary felt a knot form in her stomach as she listened, the words stung like thorns among the flowers. The pressure mounted with each new conversation she had. Mary found herself torn between the happiness Jacob brought into her life and the guilt that weighed heavily from her past. Would people ever understand the bond they had forged? Did that bond mean she was forgetting? Later that evening, she sat on the porch, contemplating everything. Jacob joined her, sensing something was amiss. She turned to him, her heart racing with conflicting emotions, and confessed how the rumors made her feel ashamed of seeking happiness. His reassuring presence filled the space between them as they both recognized this challenge, one that forced Mary to confront her fears about choosing a new path while honoring the love she once knew. Sitting together on the porch one evening, Mary could no longer stifle the emotion swirling within her. She turned to Jacob, her voice trembling slightly as she spoke about the guilt weighing heavily on her heart. "Sometimes I feel like I'm betraying my husband's memory by being happy with you," she admitted, tears threatening to spill from her eyes. Jacob listened intently, his expression filled with understanding. "Mary, love doesn't diminish what you had before. Your husband would want you to find joy again," he said softly, reaching out to gently squeeze her hand. His words resonated deeply within her, and she looked into his eyes, searching for reassurance. The warmth of his presence wrapped around her like a comforting blanket. In that moment, memories of her late husband flooded back, their laughter, dreams, and love, yet they felt less like chains holding her down and more like a foundation propelling her forward. "He always believed in living life fully," Mary whispered, reflecting on their shared moments. With a newfound clarity, Mary felt the tension in her chest begin to ease. Perhaps it was not wrong to seek happiness again, maybe it was a way to honor the love she once had while allowing herself to grow and embrace new possibilities with Jacob. "You're right," she finally said with a small smile breaking through her tears. "I want to be happy again." In that heartfelt conversation, she took a step closer to accepting this new chapter of her life alongside Jacob. One starry night, as the cool breeze swept across the homestead, Mary and Jacob decided to take a walk under the glittering sky. The moon hung like a silver coin, casting soft light on the ground beneath their feet. With every step, Mary felt an electric energy coursing between them, palpable and undeniable. As they paused to admire the vastness of the night, a sense of calm settled over Mary. It was the perfect moment, and she felt pulled to share the truth that had been blooming in her heart. "Jacob," she started softly, hesitating only for a moment to gather her courage. "I've been thinking about us. About how you make me feel alive." Jacob turned to her, his eyes reflecting the starlight, encouraging her to continue. "I know we've both lost so much, but I can't help but want to be with you," she admitted, her voice steady yet vulnerable. "I've been scared to let myself love again, but you've shown me that there's still so much happiness to be found." His smile broadened, warmth radiating from his gaze. "Mary, you don't have to be afraid. I feel it too. What we have is special," he replied sincerely. In that magical moment under the stars, both of their hearts opened fully to each other. They stepped closer, their fingers intertwining as they embraced this newfound connection, sealing their admission with a tender kiss that promised a future filled with love and hope. With the dawn of a new day, Mary and Jacob stood together at the back of the homestead, gazing out at the land that had begun to feel like home. The morning sun cast a golden glow over the fields, illuminating the path ahead. They had weathered storms, both literal and emotional, and emerged stronger on the other side, ready to embrace this fresh chapter in their lives. Mary turned to Jacob, her heart swelling with gratitude for everything they had experienced together. "We've come so far," she said, her voice filled with warmth. "I never thought I could find happiness again after losing my husband, but you've shown me that it's possible." Jacob smiled, his eyes reflecting a shared understanding. "We've both faced our challenges," he replied. "But we're not alone anymore. I want to build a future with you, here, together." With those words, a sense of determination washed over them. They started mapping out their dreams, planting gardens, raising animals, and creating a home filled with laughter and love. Each task felt lighter when tackled hand in hand. As they began to work side by side, pulling weeds from the garden and planning for crops, Mary felt a profound sense of hope blossom within her. She knew that this partnership was more than just survival, it was about building a life filled with joy and support. In the vast wilderness around them, Mary realized they were embarking on an adventure not just as pioneers but as partners facing whatever challenges lay ahead together, united in purpose and love, ready to write their own story amid the beauty of nature's embrace.